What is the enemy of the psychopath? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. What do you think is the enemy of the psychopath? Stupid people, perhaps? Many people are stupid. Indeed, there are many people on this planet who are entirely thick as mince. And, unfortunately, the advent of social media has meant that we have been exposed to the idiocy of these clowns in larger amounts than ever before. Once upon a time, the village idiot might sit in the corner of the pub with his strange theories and ideas and would largely be ignored, save when he managed to capture two tourists who had wandered in, and they eventually realised that the guy was a loon, but too late. He was already engaging them with his ridiculous tales and theories. Now, those village idiots are able to meet one another on the internet and band together, resulting in them forming a large grouping, enabling them to pollute the internet's highways with their ridiculousness. Are stupid people the enemy of the psychopath? Well, I certainly find them an irritation and an annoyance, but the enemy? No. What about uncooperative people? What about those people who don't do what is necessary, that don't do what is required of them? Might they be regarded as the enemy of the psychopath? Well, in actual fact, an uncooperative person can prove to be rather entertaining and a boon to the psychopath, because there's something that needs to be bent to our will, somebody that needs to be broken, somebody that needs to feel the firm smack of governance. Accordingly, no, it isn't uncooperative people. Are rules and conventions the enemy of the psychopath? Rules seek to shackle, conventions seek to bind. They promote ordinariness, and that is not something for which we are wanted to be known. It's not something that we want to be affected by. Whilst rules, conventions, protocols, laws, describe them how you will, could be viewed as potentially problematic, ultimately they are there to be circumvented. They're there to be bent. They're there to be broken. They're there to be worked around. They're there to be loopholed. And thus they actually provide a form of entertainment with regard to a callous disregard for their applicability and, in many instances, the application of a feverish mind to ensuring that a way around them or through them is identified. Adjacent to that, what about law enforcement? Those individuals, motivated by different factors, who seek to bring those who transgress the law to heel, seek to bring individuals to justice. Are they the enemy of the psychopath? After all, aren't they going to stop us having our fun? Aren't they there to stop us doing what we want? Aren't they there to bring us to book, to bring accountability, to prevent us, to get in the way? Well, yes, but similar to the rules and conventions and uncooperative people, law enforcement is just all part of the game, and thus, whilst potentially problematic, they are not the enemy. No, the enemy to the psychopath is boredom. That gnawing sensation of ennui. It lurks, it comes, it goes, it ebbs, it flows. A combination of high intelligence and psychopathy means that something becomes mundane very quickly. Something attracts a label of boring with due haste. Boredom is the enemy. The psychopath seeks stimulation. Stimulation is needed to defeat this enemy, to overcome the boredom, because it's always there. The things that we do are designed to recede, to cause that boredom to recede, like lighting a torch and the darkness shrinking away from it. But the darkness is still there, lurking at the edges of the circle of illumination. And once that torch, that light goes out, the darkness comes back, and thus it is with the boredom. This is the ever-present enemy against who we fight. This is the ever-present enemy that we must seek to conquer. And yet, it is an ongoing war that has raged since the beginning of our existence. One where we win battles, others where it seeks to surge back and cause us problems. This results in us having to change our tack. How might we deal with this boredom? Well, there are a multiplicity of ways. Different psychopaths will provide you with different answers as to perhaps their go-to responses to alleviate boredom. For some, it might be listening to music, or singing, or playing a musical instrument. It might be watching a film, the stimulation that comes from watching a film with an intriguing storyline. Alleviates the boredom for a while, but of course, our feverish mind is always thinking, trying to work it out. What's going to happen next? Who done it? Why done it? We don't just sit and passively absorb. You know, the majority of people have no inner monologue. It's astonishing, isn't it? To think that they just basically cruise through life, slack-jawed, just taking in what's around them, without actually contemplating it, without actually thinking about it, just being. In some respects, they may well be perfectly content, of course, because they don't pause to consider or reflect. They just drift through life. That isn't to say that they don't suffer anguish or fear or anxiety or concern when life's tribulations come their way. It's not to say that they don't experience elation and joy when happy events occur, but rather they don't reflect. They are set to cruise control. Thus, they will sit and watch a film and enjoy it for what it is without really thinking about what's going on. That does not apply to the psychopath. All the time the mind is whirring, assessing, calculating, considering, and thus that film could soon become dull and boring, necessitating it being switched off. It might be that we go and read a book, fiction, something factual, learning about the biography of a famous person. In some instances, it is to exercise. The improvement of one's body and health through exercise is important. But whether it's pounding that treadmill or putting in the kilometers on the rowing machine, whether it's staring at oneself in the mirror, admiring one's musculature as the iron is pumped, the mind, of course, drifts again. And whilst there is a temporary alleviation of the boredom through the application of effort in a physical arena, the fact is, the boredom makes its presence soon felt. For some, it's playing video games, a fast-moving form of stimulation, platform games to be overcome, strategy games to find victory in. It might be making something. It might be destroying something. It might be accessing the news, learning more about what is going on in the world. I, for instance, take my news from a wide variety of sources. Not only am I interested in what their focus is and what the news is that they're providing, but I want to understand the bias, the slants. Thus, there are many different things that the psychopath turns to for the purposes of tackling the enemy of boredom. But the one that assists the most is to play with people. This is why people remain so important to us. That person may have something interesting to share with us. Thus, it alleviates the boredom. They may be able to tell us some interesting news that has occurred. something that has happened to them which is of interest. It might be, of course, that they prove to be resistant to what we want them to do, no matter. The games begin, for the games are always being played. The fact is, people prove to be that excellent stimulant to fight the enemy of boredom. How might they respond to a particular situation? Will they be intransigent? What do we need to do to get them to bend to our will? Oh, look at that reaction. That's interesting. See how they have responded to the application of that particular pressure or manipulation. Look how they have jumped to assist. Look how they have shrunk back in fear. Oh, they've responded in a way that one didn't anticipate. Interesting. Note made. Will it happen again? Let's see. Thus, people prove particularly useful to alleviate the enemy that is boredom, by playing with them, by manipulating them, by puppeting them, by collecting them and seeing how they'll respond. It is akin to wanting to collect these little people and be like a god, and suddenly cause mayhem in their lives and see how they respond. An earthquake there, a tornado over there, a hurricane here, a firestorm there, financial tragedy, a death, an injury, a win on the lottery, success at work, a promotion, whatever it might be. Certain things that are very much within our gift, within our power, to cause to happen to people. And being able not only to do that and bring it to bear provides us with stimulation and entertainment and interest, for in some instances there must be planning and dedication. In other instances it is just an impulsive response in the moment. If I do this, how will they respond? I wonder what they'll look like if I cause them to fall over. Look at that expression on their face. For a moment, the boredom has alleviated. It soon reappears, but in that moment, it vanished. Boredom is the enemy. It is always there, always lurking, sometimes prevalent, other times pushed back. And there are very different ways that we engage in doing very different tasks, often several at once, in order to keep that boredom at bay. But people prove to be the most useful instrument in the war against boredom. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.